to come to a higher spiritual level, because humans by their nature can never stay put. We're always moving either upwards, Be'ezrat Hashem, or lower, Litza'arenu. So let's take a look at the poem. And I just want to make one side comment, that there's an introduction. There are many copies of Tehillim out there, obviously, but one of my favorites is it has to do with the OU. It's the Koran Tehillim, which of course was commented on by Rabbi Weinreb, the former head of the OU and spiritual mentor to many of us. And he refers to these two poems that we're going to do this week and next. He refers to them as domestic, he puts in quotation marks, domestic poems, because to a certain extent, they give a little bit of advice that is not only specific connected to Yerushalayim, it's also connected to a household, to a family. And this idea is very powerful as well. As we go through the poem, we're going to have to see it functioning on many different levels. And let's begin. So the poem 127, and I understand if you look at chat that a link was put up for you by David Hawkeiser. Thank you, David. So you can see the poem online, or you can take out a siddur. It's in the poems recited after Mincha on Shabbat, or in a book of Tehillim of Psalms. It's 127. And again, it's Shir HaMalot. It's one of the songs of ascent, one of these songs helping us achieve a higher spiritual level. And it's written Lishlomo. Now, Lishlomo can either mean for Shlomo, or it can mean that it was composed by Shlomo. And often, Meforshim, when it says Lid David or Lishlomo, means they're the author. However, we really believe that these poems were written by David HaMelech, and he was giving specific advice to his beloved son and heir, Shlomo HaMelech. There is a comment in the Radak that says that this reference to Shlomo isn't Shlomo ben David, isn't Shlomo the son of David HaMelech, the regular Shlomo that we refer to, but is a reference to Mashiach, and that this poem has in it an eschatological, a Mashiachiyut aspect to it, and that fits in with this poem having been recited by the Olei Bavel when they returned to Bavel, because they were hoping for a truly messianic experience. It didn't quite work out that way, but perhaps our generation can look at it in that more messianic way. The name Shlomo refers to Mashiach according to Meforshim, the way it's used in Shir HaShirim. So the Radak is accessing that concept that the terminology Shlomo, the person of peace, is the Mashiach. Okay. But I think on the Pshat level, he's talking to Shlomo HaMelech. And as we finish the pasuk, let me read the whole pasuk, and then we're going to spend a lot of time, touching it up. So here's a song of ascent specifically recited to Shlomo, whoever that may be. Im Hashem lo yivne bayit. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if Hashem is not involved in the building of a house, shav amalo bonav bo. For nothing, for naught. It's totally useless, the effort that's put in by anyone to try to build it. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu is against this activity, it's just not going to succeed. What activity? The building of a bayit. And this terminology of bayit really is going to be functioning in the poem on three different levels. The first level is obviously the Beit HaMikdash Atzmo, the Beit HaMikdash, the temple in Yerushalayim. The other function is going to be Bayit, meaning David HaMelech is talking to his ear and the next king of Israel. Bayit means like the Davidic house, the dynasty of King David, okay? Like the house, Lahavdil, House of Windsor, okay? A dynastic house, because the second part of the poem talks about children. The third one is merely a regular household. Rav Weinreb likes to feed into that concept, and so does Rav Hirsch in his description of the poem, that we're also giving advice on how to build a family, a bayit ne'eman b'Yisrael. Okay. Now, so David HaMelech is talking to Shlomo, and he says, "Oh, you can't build a house if if a Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want you to build it." Let's say it's the Beit HaMikdash right now. So David HaMelech is explaining to his son, look, I couldn't build the Beit HaMikdash. The Midrash tells us that David HaMelech, well, the Pasuk tells David HaMelech bought the land, but the Midrash says he also not only bought the land, but he built the foundations, he wrote up plans, he gathered money and wood and gold, all of the building things that were going to be needed to do it. So as he really worked hard on getting it ready, but he couldn't build the house himself because he didn't have permission from Hashem. So that's the simplest meaning for that. Rashi on the Pasuk brings down a famous midrash where David HaMelech is giving musar to his beloved son, Shlomo, and he's saying, be careful. You got to build the house, but when you're building that house, make sure you do it right. And according to the midrash that Rashi brings down, David HaMelech had a nuvu'ah, had a prophecy that on the day that Shlomo HaMelech built the Beit HaMikdash, he also married the daughter of Pharaoh. And by marrying Bat Paro, Shlomo HaMelech was endangering the effort, the enterprise of building the temple, because the temple to function must have the consent of Hashem. And if Shlomo HaMelech is really going to be bringing these wives who are going to bring Avodah Zarah to Yerushalayim, that's going to be bad for the building of the temple. And so therefore, he's warning him, don't let these external treaties and plans that you have with these other women, don't let those get in the way of the real effort, which is that Hashem wants to be in the Beit HaMikdash, that Hashem wants to be in the midst of Klal Yisrael. And so everything you do has to be to make sure that you are building not just an edifice, but a place that a Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to feel comfortable being a part of, and bringing in Bat Paro and these other influences is not good. So it's a musar on that sense to Shlomo HaMelech according to the Midrash as quoted by Rashi. But let's finish the whole pasuk. Im Hashem lo yishmo'ir, if a Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't guard a city, shav shakad shomer, for no purpose. It's a total waste of time. That vigilance, shkedah, that effort, that no matter how passionate, no matter how zariz it might be, that effort that the shomer is putting in is again for naught if a Kadosh Baruch Hu isn't interested in protecting the enterprise. So we're talking first about the Beit HaMikdash, then we're talking about the entire city of Yerushalayim. So the edifice needs HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but so does the entire city. That the city is gone, not from the moment that the enemies breach the walls. The city's gone from the moment that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is no longer interested in protecting our interests in the city. That's what we have to remember when we're talking about Yerushalayim. Now, I want to make another point. I believe that the most beautiful reference to Yerushalayim in the Shir HaMalot is in Psalm 122, when David HaMelech, we did this psalm a few months back. In Psalm 122, David HaMelech refers to Yerushalayim's Ir Shechubra La Yachdav, the city that connects us all together. And the idea of being connected, has many, many different levels of meaning to it. I love the interpretation that it means it's the city that makes Jews more connected, more friendly to one another. And I'd like to think that that's true, that Yerushalayim is a point of connection within Klal Yisrael. The other pshat that, according to the mystics, is most important is that Yerushalayim is the point that connects Olam Hazeh to Olam Haba. That when you're on your way to Olam Haba, either after 120 years or maybe even in your prayers, that as you leave this world, you leave it from Yerushalayim, and the first place you arrive on the other side is again Yerushalayim, the other Yerushalayim, Shamala, the mirror image of our Yerushalayim here. So it's the connector between the two. In our poem, especially in the first pasuk, but it's going to come up later, Yerushalayim is our connector with Hashem, and that our hold on Yerushalayim keeps us together with Hashem, and our grip on the city is only as strong as our connection to Hashem. And that's what it means. You can't build the building without Hashem wanting it, and you can't protect the city without Hashem wanting it. All of our efforts are shav, are futile, for naught, if we don't have the cooperation and consent of Hashem in the effort. I just want to mention one idea before we move on to the second pasuk, which is a partner, a couplet of the first pasuk, as you'll see in a second. The Rabbi Nachman asks a very simple question, and he says, well, if building a building isn't worth it if Hashem doesn't care, if guarding a city isn't worth it if Hashem doesn't care, why do we bother guarding anything? I mean, why don't I just take my wallet and leave it out in front of my house? And it doesn't make a difference whether I guard it or not. It's all up to Hashem whether the wallet will be there when I come back, or whether I kept an eye on it. It seems like the pasuk is telling us you don't have to guard anything because only Hashem guards things. And of course, Rabbi Nachman says that concept is foolish. That there are in this world two different kinds of shmirah. There is a spiritual shmirah, and for that we need Hashem. But there is a physical shmirah, and keeping an eye on things does make sense. And please don't leave your wallet out on your doorstep. That we do indeed want Hashem to guard. And we know that only in spiritual areas, it's only with Hashem's help that we really are safe. But there are physical things that we can take care of as well. However, the spiritual guarding that talks about Yerushalayim, and we're going to see later in the poem, talks about our family, that we really need HaKadosh Baruch Hu to be within the cooperation. Okay. So we just said that building the temple without Hashem's cooperation is futile, and also trying to protect. Yeah, please.
I mean, the issue of how much action we need on a physical sense to look after ourselves.
Right. The argument is called hishtadlut. Effort vis-a-vis bitachon. It's a famous debate. Go ahead.
No, I mean, we don't have to look very far in the current situation amongst sectors of our community to wonder what's in the mindset of some people. I'm trying to be very diplomatic. You understand what I'm talking
Yes, I understand what you're saying. This debate, and I was just touching on it very, very lightly in Rabbi Nachman, this debate over how much we have to put hishtadlut, effort into things like livelihood and our own protection, and in the past couple of months, health, and how much is total bitachon, reliance on Hashem. What I think Rabbi Nachman was trying to describe to us, and maybe I should have gone deeper into it because it's a big issue today. I agree with you, Simon. It's extremely important. The fact of the matter is, Rabbi Nachman is trying to say we need both. And there are spiritual issues. Yerushalayim is primarily a spiritual issue, and none of our efforts are going to work without Hashem being part of the equation. However, most physical things, and the example that he used is stuff. For stuff, I use the wallet. Most physical things require hishtadlut, require effort on our part. His point is that Yerushalayim is an exception to the rule rather than the rule. So Rabbi Nachman, even though obviously a Haredi, Rabbi Nachman really believes in is bringing out a hishtadlut, an effort point of view in this particular comment that's in the Likutei Halacha, Rabbi Nachman. But the fact of the matter is that it's always a big debate. Please.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, but Yerushalayim, the point of David HaMelech, Yerushalayim requires not only hishtadlut, but tremendous amount of bitachon, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge when it comes to Yerushalayim. And now we're going to make another point in the next pasuk that's connected. The first two psukim form a couplet and their own section of the poem, and it's been pointed out that there's a sibilant sh sound connecting the first two psukim that's supposed to be a calming sense. Shav lachem mashkimei kum me'achrei shevet ochlei lechem ha'atzavim. And he said, you people, when in certain areas of human effort, it's for naught that you try to get up early and work hard after you've sat and eaten the bread of atzavim. Now, atzavim can be translated as tense bread, difficult bread. The translation I have in front of me that's from the Koran is toiling hard for bread, toilsome bread. The ArtScroll translates it as bread of sorrows. I'm not sure etzev is sorrow as much as etzev is concern. That we're talking about the second issue. We talked first about the issue of Jerusalem and the temple. Second issue is specifically livelihood. And here we're saying that HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps in the area of livelihood as well. Kain yitain lidido sheina. So Hashem gives to his beloved sheina. No, it's spelled with an aleph here, but it really is, we should be with a hey. It's sleep. So too, there's that Hashem provides even as you sleep. That the affection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a major factor in all success. Not that you shouldn't be trying, but that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a major factor in all of these matters. So these first two sentences of the poem go together. Sher hamalot l'shlomo im Hashem lo yivne bet shav hamalo banabo im Hashem lo yishma Irshav Shakad Shomer. Again, Shav Lachem Mashkim Mekum Me'achrei Shevet Ochlei Lechem Etzrim Kain Yiten Li Dido Sheina. We've got 8 times this sibilant calm, Stay within the good graces of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's going to be okay. Yerushalayim historically has been in the crosshairs of history over and over again. We know of over 30 times when Yerushalayim was conquered. It's three times right in the in the 20th century. So it's like an interesting, just in the 20th century, there are three times. First by the Brits, then by the Jordanians, and then Baruch Hashem by us in '67. So it's a city that's in a very tense location. That's been true as long as history has recorded about Yerushalayim, and it's still true today. It's a very tense situation. So we're being told that having faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring more shalva, shena, shalom to Yerushalayim. So the SH sound, the shin sound, is very powerful in the beginning of this poem. That if you place your faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when it comes to Yerushalayim and its well-being, things will ultimately be okay. The next part of the poem, which is the second half, the last three verses, really talk about family, and it could be that David HaMelech is giving Shlomo HaMelech advice about the Shalshelet, about the dynasty of the Davidic monarchy, and that's very, very important. But a lot of Meforshim and Hirsch in the lead say that it's really talking about family. And is it two different issues? Perhaps not. There are Meforshim that say that the bayit in the first half of the poem isn't talking about the Beit HaMikdash or the Davidic monarchy. That the bayit in the first half of the poem is talking about your home. It's talking about your family. It's really talking about Bayit Ne'eman B'Yisrael, and that therefore the second half of the poem talking about children is totally connected. Okay, because of its placement in the Sher HaMalot, there has got to be this Jerusalem aspect, Zion aspect of it. Nevertheless, you could just say that the entire poem is, in the word used by Rabbi Weinreb, domestic. And if I can quote, before we get to the second part of the poem from Hirsch, he says, concerned about one's children is the most worrisome concern of all. There's someone who must have known. Okay. With each child comes more worries and preoccupation with the problems of one's children and grandchildren endures for the entire course of one's life. Tsar Gidul Banim is an issue. It's not easy bringing up children. Not easy having them. It's not easy bringing them up. And what we're doing in the second half of the poem is comparing, I believe, the house which is Yerushalayim, which we know requires Emunah and Hashem. We're comparing that with my own private home. It's not that the entire poem is about domestic issues, as some say, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm giving my personal opinion. I think the second half of the poem is saying that same divine requirement for the Beit HaMikdash and Yerushalayim to work is required in your house too. If you don't have Hashem in the house, then it's a big problem. One of the Hasidic Meforshim says that the second half of the poem is talking about putting a mezuzah on your door. It's talking about having HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the house. Now, one of the other Meforshim talked about the famous vort that everybody's heard at many weddings throughout their lives, that you have an ish and an isha, right? that if the extra letter in the man is the yud, the extra letter in the woman is the hey. If put the yud hey together, if they have Hashem, everything's fine. If you take out the yud and the hey, then you've got aish. Then you've got fire. You've got a terrible situation. Okay, all of this is fine. But let's take a look at the second half of the poem, which puts a different perspective on the continuity of the Jewish people. In the first half of the poem, continuity of Jewish people, Jerusalem, Davidic dynasty. Second half of the poem, here we go. Gimel. Hine nachalat Hashem banim. Children are the nachala of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's a nachala? A nachala is a permanent possession. We talk about things that we inherit from the previous generations as a Yerusha, but they're also a nachala. A nachala are those things that you inherit that you not only want for yourself, but you want to make sure you give over to the next generation. The things that you get from the previous generation fall into two categories. Some things are assets. They left you, a few dollars, so you can spend it, okay? But they also left you, Bubby's lichters. They also left you the candelabrum that has gone down from generation to generation. That's not an asset. That's a nachala. That's something that has to be given further on. So children themselves are the nachala. Now, I love the terminology nachala because the image is a nachal. When you have that image in your brain of a stream, it started before you. It's going by you right now, and it's continuing off into an indeterminate future. It just flows to me and continues to flow by me. I feel myself as part of an infinite continuum. And that's what I'm supposed to feel about a lot of the things that I get from my parents and grandparents. They're not to be squandered, they're to be passed on to the next dorot. And that's what we're talking about here. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu views this as divine nachala, as a divine permanent possession. Sacha pri habeten, the reward of the fruit of the womb. Okay, I like that, fruit of the womb. Sounds like a textile company from America. Okay, but in other words, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very much involved. Some Meforshim say that having children requires Hashem, and we have to view having children is a reward from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's interesting that Baruch Hashem, as time goes on, modern medicine gets better and better at issues of fertility. One of the most successful, if not the most successful, fertility clinics in the world is at Shaarei Tzedek Hospital. And it was, now there are others now. It was originally the only fertility clinic in the world that was based upon moral, religious, halachic issues, as well as the cutting edge of medicine. And it was historically the most successful in terms of success rate. But the truth is, we still have a lot of question marks in terms of of fertility. A lot of I remember when I was young and having children, we had some trouble having a couple of miscarriages and issues of that type. And we once talked to a gynecologist who said that he has told people that they're never going to have children, and then they did. And we all probably know couples that were told they couldn't have kids. They went out and adopted, and it was wonderful. And then all of a sudden they had their own children. There are still many question marks. We still, even though we've come a long way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu seems to have a major role. Like the Gemara says, the Gemara in the beginning of Tainus says that there are three aspects of this world that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has maintained sole control of the key of, and one of those keys that HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps in divine keeping is fertility, is the ability to give birth, and that seems to be referenced here in Pasuk Gimel. Pasuk Daled. Pasuk Daled is a little bit of a question mark. It's a connector between Gimel and Hey. Hey is the culmination of the poem. Daled seems to be giving a practical aspect to having children. Remember, he's talking perhaps to Shlomo Melech, his son, and they are talking about dynastic issues. And so here in Pasuk Daled, he says, Kechitzim biyad gibor, kain b'nei haneurim, like arrows, in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Well, in other words, to be successful, you need kids. So it could be, you could look at this pasuk very pragmatically, and I think on a certain level it's true. David HaMelech and Shlomo HaMelech understood how important it is to have children, even though they each had children that caused them tremendous headaches. Especially David HaMelech had rebellions on the part of his sons. Nevertheless, the more sons that you have, the more successful the dynasty will be. They are your arrows. Now, I think that the term arrow, chetz, is an extremely important metaphor. In battle, in warfare, there are two kinds of weapons, and there are close action, close-in weapons, and there are long-distance weapons. For us, close in means like a rifle or something, or a handgun, okay? And long distance means like airplanes and missiles. In the ancient world, close-in weapon meant a sword, the cherev, and the long-distance weapon was the arrow, because that's how you could attack somebody from a distance. My children are my long-distance weapon in the battle for survival. In other words, my ability to maintain the family is finite. I've got X number of years to be here to make my family grow and prosper, but I have a long-range weapon. My genetic material in my children can continue my battles ad infinitum. It's no coincidence that when the promises are given to the Avot in Sefer Breshit, they continually talk about Ulazarecha achrecha, and to your seed after you. Your children are your long-range or long-term weapon, accomplishment that can continue on and on and on and keep the people and keep the things that are important to me going. Now, when I sit and I study or I do mitzvot and I'm involved in things that mean something to me, I don't want them to die with me. I want them to continue. I've been trying to write more recently. I'm not sure that I expect my kids to read everything that I write, but I want my kids to know that I wrote things. And hopefully once in a while they'll glance at it and they'll know that, that they had a father in Zadie that used to think about things. But I want them to feel that that they're continuing something, that I have continuation. I want that to, my wife is telling me I should remind you that I'm writing a blog if you look on Times of Israel. But okay. As well as my weekly articles that are online at Torah Tidbits, if you don't get them otherwise. Okay, so that's what we're saying, that our children are this long-term plan for what we believe is important. Okay? And now we come to the last pasuk in the poem, and we know this pasuk is important. The reason we know this pasuk is important is it begins with the word ashrei. Ashrei is perhaps, or is arguably, the most important word in Sefer Tehillim. Now, since the book is called Tehillim, you might say the most important root in the word in the book is Hallel, and that I can't argue. I can't argue that point. That's a definite possibility that that could be true. However, the first word in the book is Ashrei. The most commonly recited psalm we refer to as Ashrei, even though Chazal call it Tilal David, because Ashrei was added to it. So Ashrei is a very important word in the book of Tehillim. And I mean, it usually gets translated as happy. I really don't like that. I'm looking at the translations in front of me, and they're saying happy. So I think Ashrei means more than just happy. I think it means contented. I think it means to be in a good place. And when you think about life, perhaps the most important thing that we're interested in is to feel that I'm in a good place. Boy, does that idea sound more and more important these days when we don't feel like we're in such a good place. When life is a little bit nerve-wracking. Ashrei means I feel this sense of I'm contented, I'm satisfied, I'm overall in the place where I really want to be. That's what we mean when we say Ashrei Yoshvei Veitach. I really want to be in Shul, and I really miss Shul actually right now. So and so that's what we're ending this poem with an Ashrei moment. And what's the Ashrei moment? Ashrei HaGever. Now, Ezehu Gibor HaKovesh et Yitzro. Happy is the powerful person, the strong individual. Okay? It doesn't just mean a warrior, although the concept of warrior is here. Is it here in reality? Like David HaMelech was a great warrior, and so was Shlomo HaMelech. Okay? Perhaps, but it's definitely here on that other level of fighting life's battles and being successful. So contented, praiseworthy, in a good place is that powerful individual. Asher milei et ashpato mehem. The greatest feeling is that my quiver, that my box or container of arrows is filled with my genetic material as arrows, okay? That I'm happy that I've got a lot of kids that can carry on. It's against a sense that many Americans have. Oh my God, I can't have too many kids. Well, if I have more than 2 kids, I can't afford it. I won't be able, No, having more arrows, more children is positive. I know that sometimes financially it doesn't look that way, and we have to be sympathetic and we have to be, supportive of that idea. We know, especially in America, sending kids to day school is so expensive. It's very hard, and how many kids can you have? I mean, we can go on with that over and over, but that's not what David HaMelech is saying. David HaMelech is saying there's tremendous security and sense of well-being by having a lot of children, and the children are both protective of you in a physical, even military sense, but in terms of what you really want to accomplish in the world. And that's what's coming up here. And there's a beautiful interpretation coming right up. Milei ashmato mehem lo yevoshu. That person will never be embarrassed, will never feel in a place of busha, of shame. Ki yadabru et oivav b'shar, when he talks to his enemies at the gate. So the literal meaning is you're in a war and the bad guys are banging on your gate. They've got the, they've got the battering ram, boom, 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 right? And they're coming in, but you're not afraid. You're not afraid because the strongest weapon you've got, a tremendous amount of family that are going to help you and support you, and it's a beautiful pshat. However, a Hasidic Rebbe, and I'm trying to remember who it was that said it, and I can't. I'm sorry, I cannot say b'shem Amro. I apologize, but there's a Hasidic Rebbe that said that's the wrong gate. You've got the pshat and gate wrong. The shar that it's talking about here is shar shamayim. That when after 120 years, you're on your way to heaven, and at the gate, there are two teams of angels, They're the good guys and the malachei chavala, the bad guys. And, and that the good angels saying, yeah, welcome, come on in. And then the bad angels say, no, you know what he did on June 2nd, 1962? We remember that. Here's the video, and you can't come in. But if you've got a lot of children and you've brought up those children well, the Malachei Chavala will have nothing to say when you come to Shar Shamayim and you knock. They'll just be the team of good guy angels saying, welcome. And the other team will not have pitchon peh, will not have a thing to say against you. And I love that pshat. That the gates that we're really interested in, the gates that we really are at the places we mamish want to go to, whether it's heaven or just good places, the children are always going to be there to support us. That they are not just a nachala, they are a zchut, a merit. And that we're thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for them, but beyond that, we understand what they do for us. Every ounce of effort that I put into my children comes back to me with tremendous dividends. Best investment you can possibly make. And that's the point that David HaMelech is making toward the end of the poem. So the two parts of the poem go together. Are we talking about Beit HaMikdash, Yerushalayim, the Jewish people? Yeah, we are. And as we're going up to Yerushalayim to visit the holy city in the Shir HaMalot, we're supposed to feel, wow, these efforts that our nation put in, they're worthwhile because they were blessed with great success by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Or are we talking about my own personal family? Am I talking about my own private home? And that I put a lot of effort into this, and those efforts were blessed, and I had a lot of children, and my children had children, and it goes on and on and on. Yes, it means that too. This is one of those poems that Baruch Hashem works on many, many levels, and works on all of those levels very, very beautifully. And as we get ready, we're counting up. And I know historically, Sfirat HaOmer is counting up towards Shavuot and Matan Torah. But in my lifetime, I always feel like I'm counting up towards Yom Yerushalayim, and that's what we're trying to do, in these couple of weeks here. And we want to get this sense of we are moving, onwards and upwards. Towards the Yerushalayim we really want to have. And And Yerushalayim is that, that tremendous entity, idea, perception that really binds us. And for so many centuries, said Lashon Haba Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem, and that's what was always keeping us together. Well, let's make it this year. Baruch Hashem, we're here, and we're not necessarily in the place we want to be right now, as we have to, hunker down, hiding from the invisible enemy. But nevertheless, there is tremendous energy in building Yerushalayim and building our families and building Beit David. And hopefully we're all going to be here to see Binyan Yerushalayim, Era Kodesh B'Mehera V'Yameinu, and be it Hamashiach, David, whether it's Shlomo or David, it should come speedily. And so our poem is getting us ready for that. And the best way to bring that reality is by teaching our children and grandchildren. They are the path to getting us to that final fruition for which we're all so energetically striving. I just want to say next week we're going to do the next Psalm 128, which is a continuation of some of these ideas. And again, I like the terminology of Rabbi Weinreb, that it's a domestic, and we have to see that that the Jewish nation is the Jewish family, and it starts with our family and it spreads out from there. And so a lot of the ideas of David Melech in this poem are important for us, and next week's poem are a continuation. I'm sorry, Simon, you wanted to ask a question? Oh,
I'm just saying, and thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. And Baruch Tiyeh. But I saw you unmuted, so I thought maybe you had a question. Okay, good to see you. I know it's long distance, but it's still nice to see people. And Shavua Tov, and stay safe. Stay safe.
Thank you, Rabbi Walk. It was very, very beautiful.
Thank you. Next week's even better. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining. Hi, okay. So how do I end this, David? Now we go. I just do this. I just do leave meeting and that ends it? Okay. Okay, now we have to end this. Okay, so those on Facebook, bye-bye too.